Welcome to Random Bible Thoughts with Russ. Today's video is called Negative Fear. This will be a part one of a two-part series. Part two will be Positive Fear. Negative fear, I'll be talking about the effects of negative fear can have on your life. Although I am using scripture, this is more of a negative fear on your walk, in your Christian life, but this also applies to those who are not Christians. Negative fear affects you too in pretty much the same way. And positive fear, part two, we'll talk about the effects of positive fear, where fear produces positive results. So, before I get going here, I'm getting my soda ready to go. So, negative fear. Let's get right on into it. Now, I have my writing on a screen behind the camera, and I have the screen over here where I can see myself. And so if you see me looking over there, that's why I have notes in front of my hand in case I get lost, but hopefully I won't need them. Negative fear. Abraham said, I did it because I thought there is no fear of God at all in this place, and they would kill me because of my wife. In the context of this verse, Abraham basically lied. He gave a half-truth. And I have a footnote on what that half-truth is. And after I get done with this little section here, I will say what that footnote is about. It's kind of interesting. Out of fear of being killed, he said, she is my sister. And she said, he is my brother. Then Abimelech took her. God intervened and prevented Abimelech from having relations with her. God informed him in a dream that she was Abraham's wife, and he returned her to Abraham. The negative effects of fear, Abraham gave his wife to a stranger to do as he pleased with her. He took her. His fear took over. Instead of relying on God and his protection, as God told Abraham in Genesis 15:1, after these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram, that's before his name was changed to Abraham, in a vision, fear not, Abram, I am your shield. Your reward will be very great. Or you could say, fear not, Abram, I am your protector. His fear had a negative impact on his faith. He did not trust that God had said, I will protect you. I am your shield. He did not have faith that God would keep him safe in a land where he thought the fear of God did not exist. Fear can be faith squelching. Fear can cause you to do things that you normally wouldn't do. Now here's the footnote. And I had a question about this, and a little bit, not much. I went over this with my pastor back in Nebraska, and the footnote says Sarah was his half-sister. In Genesis 20:12, besides she indeed my sister, the daughter of my father, not the daughter of my mother, and she became his wife. She was his father's. They both had the same father, but not the same mother. Now, I haven't looked it up, but there may be laws against that. But the thing is, this was before the laws were given. This was before the laws were given. So, anyways, he told the half-truth. She was his half-sister. In Numbers 13, Moses sends out spies to search out the land that God had promised them. And I'm going to just hit high points of these scriptures here. I'm not going to read the whole verses, but I kind of go through the chapter a little bit. In verses 1 through 24, the spies came back, reported that the land flowed with milk and honey, and its fruit was huge. Oh, milk and honey and huge fruit. That's a good report. But when you say but, you cancel out what was just said. They also said the people are strong. Now, not all the spies said this. Only a handful of, well, probably most of them, I guess. But they also said the people are strong, fortified, and are huge giants, descendants of Anak, sons of Anak, who came from the Nephilim. They were giants. Nephilim were giants. In 27 through 29, Caleb calmed the people and said, "Let's take the land. We are able to overcome it." The other spies spread a negative report among the congregation. The fear of the other spies spread about the land caused the congregation to want to go back to Egypt. Now, why would you want to go back to a land that enslaved you? Why? It doesn't make any sense. I wouldn't want to go back to a land that enslaved me. Sorry, my nose itched. But they wanted to go back to the land that enslaved them. In chapter 14, Genesis 14, 1 through 4, Moses, Aaron, and others tried to convince the congregation that God was on their side, that he had removed the inhabitants' defenses. Do not be afraid or do not fear. 5:9. Long story short, they ended up wandering in the desert another 40 years because of their lack of belief, lack of trust in God. Another 40 years, and everybody of the age of 20 died in the desert and did not enter the promised land. After everything God had done for them, providing food, water, garments that didn't wear out, guidance and protection, they didn't trust God to deliver the land to them. Why? Because of a few spies gave a bad report on the land and instilled fear in them. Negative fear causes discontent. When you have negative fear, you lose out on the blessings God has for you. Negative fear causes you to miss out on seeing the glory of God. Because of negative fear, you may die without ever seeing the plans God has for you. Negative fear induces negative thinking. Negative thinking induces a negative life. Negative life, I think, may be considered a sinful life. Why I say that is because if you're always negative, there is no peace of Christ within you. No peace of Christ within you. You're always negative. You probably don't have the peace of Christ. Now let's take a look at some negative fear in the New Testament. Matthew 14:27. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Take heart, excuse me. Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." Some context here. Jesus told his disciples to get in the boat and head to the other side of the water while Jesus dismissed the crowds. This was when Jesus fed the 5,000. After they were done eating, he was done preaching or whatever he was doing, maybe just talking it up. But he told the disciples, get in the boat, go to the other side. And Jesus went off to pray by himself. After some time, Jesus headed to the other side of the water, walking on the water. The boat had been beaten by the waves. Mark 6:48 states that Jesus had meant to walk past them. But they saw him and thought he was a ghost. They were terrified and started crying out in fear. It's kind of interesting. Jesus was intended on walking past them, according to Mark. It's like Jesus sitting walking up, going, sees the boat and going, I dealt with these guys all day. I just want to get to the other side. I don't want to stop. My speculation. I don't know. Nothing in the scripture saying that's what he thought. It's just kind of funny. But they saw him and thought he was a ghost and were terrified and started crying out in fear. Peter wanted proof and said, if it's you, Lord, command me to walk on the water. Peter stepped out of the boat, walked to Jesus. Peter saw the waves and became afraid and started sinking. Jesus said to him, "O you of little faith, why do you doubt?" And they got in the boat and the seas calmed. Matthew 14:30-31. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Jesus immediately reached out his hand and took hold of him, saying to him, "O you of little faith, why do you doubt?" What does negative fear here bring? Distrust of your own eyes, believing you see what is not real. Peter was walking on the water to Jesus. The wind, or probably the effects of the wind, a large wave coming at him, and he is afraid and doubts what he is really doing. Really? I think I'd be ecstatic to be walking on water. Peter walked all the way up to Jesus. He walked all the way up to Jesus, saw a wave coming, and doubted. He took his eyes off the Lord, is what I guess it really comes down to. He took his eyes off the Lord and began to sink. He was there. It says Jesus reached down and grabbed him. It didn't say Jesus ran to him on the water. He reached down and grabbed him. He was there already. And he doubted. He didn't believe what he was actually doing. Negative fear here causes doubt that you can't do what you are being called to do, even if apparently you're already doing it. John 7:13. Yet for the fear of the Jews, no one spoke openly of him. This verse is pretty clear. This was during the Feast of Booths. The people were mumbling amongst themselves about Jesus, but are afraid to speak out about Jesus. Why? My answer, and it's a bit of speculation, but the Jews were seeking out Jesus to have him killed. So maybe this is the speculation part. Maybe they thought they would be killed too. Negative fear stifles the mouth. It keeps you from saying what is true and correct, from being bold to speak up. Negative fear will keep you from saying what you should say. Negative fear may keep you from speaking truth. Negative fear may be keeping you from speaking out to defend somebody. Negative fear keeps you from saying what you should say. And to wrap this up, here are the effects of negative fear: a lack of faith, doing something you wouldn't normally do, disbelief of the promises that are given you, negative thinking, negative life, disbelief of what's right before you, doubt, not speaking up when you should, sin, and here's a verse for that, James 4:7. So whoever knows what is the right thing to do but fails to do it, for him it is sin. Fear keeps you from doing what is right. Jesus said in Hebrews 13:5b, the second half of 13:5, I will never leave you nor forsake you. He is always with you. If this video has been of some help to you, let me know. If you got questions, let me know. You'll be able to see this video, I think, on Spotify and YouTube under Random Bible Thoughts with Russ. God bless. Have a good evening.